Know what to say. I'm looking at my John Mateer Heisman ticket. I'm not ripping it up. It's going to take a whole lot more than one little broken bone in a hand, and prayers up for John Mateer, by the way, to rip up this Heisman ticket. But I was getting too good. I'm like Kit. I'm like the little sister in a league of their own. I get ahead of the John Mateer curve. I bet an inordinate amount of money on a Heisman ticket for John Mateer. And then what happens? Broken hand, which apparently he played with and still good enough to beat Auburn. Does that impact my Auburn A&M game preview tonight? I can't say no. So, yeah, I'm just spilling emotion all over the place as we come on the air. In case you missed it today, John Mateer out for a few weeks with, I think, a broken bone in the hand, Jesse. Whatever. His hand is hurt. My heart is hurt. We're jam-packed still. We're going to do the show tonight. It's Tuesday, September 23rd, the year of our Lord 2025, high atop a lovely downtown Nashville, Tennessee. It is Show Me Saturday. I'm not the biggest on these nicknamed Saturdays, but, buddy, it is Show Me Saturday. Because there's a lot of things that I thought I knew in August that I have divorced myself from. There's some other stuff I'm trying to figure out. I've got all these top teams, and I need to know, are you real? Or am I imagining you? Are you real? So we're going to find out a lot. We've got some folks where their back's against the wall already. Can't afford another loss. Notre Dame, you're going to be 1-3 after Saturday. So Mike Gundy got fired today. He didn't retire. He didn't resign. He got fired. We will discuss. JP poll is out tonight. I'm looking at it right now. I hate it. For those of you who think that this is my poll immunity, nah, that's the models poll. And tonight, I say I will have a bigger issue with the JP poll tonight than the haters, who notably have an issue with it every week. We'll see. All that plus some added best bets. We got a jam-packed show. That is a sizable pack of papers. They're watching us in Texarkana, Texas, Alpharetta, Georgia, Bear Lake, Michigan, Fort Collins, Colorado. I got to tell you, we could win awards for how loaded the Instagram story was this past weekend. It figures to be that way again because we're doing multiple games Saturday, plus I've got it on good authority that we may not get rained out for softball Friday night because that's the stupidity of the life that we live. We stay in Nashville so we can play slow pitch softball on Friday, then we go to 2 games Saturday. It's all documented at Josh Pate CFB. If you're not following on Instagram, and like 100,000 of you are, but if you're not, head over there. It doesn't cost anything, just like it doesn't cost anything to subscribe to the YouTube channel, which we're pushing 500K on. So I appreciate you guys. This is a very serious show tonight. We may laugh some, but this show is no laughing matter. It's Prediction Tuesday. Tuesday is when we do business around here. So where shall we start? Probably with the game, one of the games that we're going to go to. Alabama at Georgia, Saturday, 7:30 Eastern kickoff on ABC. Let me set the table for you. This game happened last year. It was a 5-Chalai classic. We were there. It was in Tuscaloosa. Bama got up by like 50. Somehow Georgia then had the lead in the game. I cannot, in strong enough terms, encourage you to rewatch that game this week as we head into this game, because I want you to know that thing was 41-34, and the total on this game this year is 52.5. Interesting. Little stroke of the chin there. Over 800 passing yards in this game last year. Georgia has 33 consecutive home wins. I can hear people clipping that for hype videos even as I speak. But listen, it's extremely hard to play there. It is extremely difficult to beat Georgia anywhere. But when you marry the two, that winning streak makes a lot of sense. Now, there are some out there who would tell you that doesn't really matter for Alabama because Alabama's had Georgia's number. I promise you it matters. As we get into this, it's good that Bama's getting Jam Miller back. Great. Phenomenal. Can't wait. Remember, this is my national champion. So I picked them. I need them to be healthy. Tim Keenan, back. Huge deal. I don't want to overlook any of that. That's why I want to mention that right up front in this video. Here's how I think this game's going to go. I expect a defiant effort from Georgia. And what I mean is kind of like last year when they went and played Texas. And there were people, me included, I think validly questioning them, questioning their mettle. Why aren't you stopping the run? Why can't you run the ball? All this stuff. And they had a stat profile. It was several weeks into the season. It wasn't early. And then they went to Texas and just kind of turned it on its ear. And they just threw Texas in a wood chipper in their own building in Austin. and then did it again in Atlanta a few weeks later. And I remember thinking to myself, good, that's Georgia. It almost makes me angry I didn't see that version of Georgia earlier. So we're a lot earlier in the season this year than when they played Texas last year. And this game's in Athens. It's not in Tuscaloosa or Austin or anything like that, but they're 62nd in pressure rate right now. They're 115th in sacks. So you can look at those numbers, or you can just try and picture this in your head. I got an Alabama offensive line that's been very iffy. I've got a program the past couple of years that's been a little iffy on the road. They've been prone to penalties. They've been prone to giving up pressures on your quarterback. Just force it. Just make it happen. That's a defiant effort. That's what I mean by that. You take the piece of paper, and then you realize paper don't play, as Meemaw would say. Players do. Coaching staffs get players ready, and then players go play. The Alabama offensive line, I think, has a lot to prove here. A lot to prove. You go back and watch that Florida State game, and everyone's, kind of wondering, what do we do with that tape? What do we do with that outcome? Is Florida State secretly great? Was that just this one-off? I don't know yet. I told you after that game concluded, the next time I'll really find anything out about Bama is 3 weeks from now at that point, which was the road game at Georgia. Because that's the next time they'll be thrown in a blender on the road. So here we go. It's a few days away. I remember that Texas game last year, and I've watched Kirby Smart Georgia teams, and sometimes it plays true to what the stat sheet tells you. There are other times they just have this defiant manner about themselves, and they have this defiant effort that they put forth. And sometimes you'll watch them like I did against Texas, and they're just getting after the quarterback all night. And I'm like, boy, that hasn't been there all year. Where did it come from? Well, the answer is it was always there. They just, for whatever reason, had it bottled up and didn't really have the strength to twist the top until the Texas game. I think another thing could be in play there, and that is Georgia only feels truly threatened a few times a year. Georgia only feels like people doubt them a few times a year. People doubted them on the road at Texas last year. And I'll tell you, as much as Bama looked bad in week one, that has kind of subsided because they've buzzsawed everybody they've played since then, and they're going to go in here, and this line's 2.5. This thing dropped below a field goal today. It's 2.5 in favor of Georgia, which implies maybe Bama even a slight favorite on a neutral field. Georgia feels a little doubted here. That's when you tend to get those efforts from them. So that's the first thing I'm looking for. The second thing is it's a really, really big competitive character test. I'll use the M word. It's a really big manhood test for Georgia. We give Dave Ballou full freedom to echo that all throughout that building. You do whatever you need to do. But Bama, 91st in penalties right now. Georgia 4th. Georgia, it was so impressive to watch them go into Knoxville, not a single false start. Now, they won't have to deal with crowd noise this Saturday. But point being, that's indicative of a very, very disciplined team. It's a high competitive character team. I think that's in Alabama. I just think they have to show it here. It's a real gut check moment because for all the what ifs that you could talk about, and there are several ways Bama could have a lot of success Saturday, it all works downstream of having composure and really having toughness. By that I mean you got to nut up a little bit against that pass rush and give your guy time to throw. Because when Ty Simpson's had time to throw, he's looked surgical this year. What was he, like 41 of 46 the last couple of weeks? That really is a moot point if he doesn't have time to throw. And if your offensive linemen, specifically at the tackle positions, look like turnstiles all night, and you understand who you're playing here, even if Kirby Smart doesn't have a front seven loaded with future first-rounders, he's got plenty good enough personnel, and they're plenty multiple enough to give you a lot of different looks, a lot of different pressures. It's on the road anyway. You can't hear. So it is a big, big competitive character gut check time for Alabama. Now, if they answer that bell, then it's game on. Because if they answer that bell, Bama's playing with the kind of precision that can embarrass you. Alabama's got the kind of skill set out wide that if a quarterback has time to throw, can embarrass you. That includes Georgia. They can do a lot of business against this Georgia secondary if they're given time, which begs the question, how much time will Ty Simpson have? I also think about getting Jam Miller back. One of the other things I kind of got to see to believe with Alabama is you get your tailback back. Jam Miller, phenomenal camp. Obviously not penciled in, but written in Sharpie as their RB1, and they've been without him, and they get him back. If that just resurrects their ground game, so be it. I frankly don't even think they look for that to happen here. I think they look to manufacture what would be rushing yardage a little more creatively than that. Be interesting to see who all gets their hands on the ball in the backfield this Saturday. But I just think Ty Simpson and that wide receiver core, I mean, if he's given any time, they'll go to work here. Tennessee, when Georgia went up there, had 9 passes of 15-plus yards. Ty Simpson's 41 of 46 in his last 2 games for 612, 8 touchdowns, no picks. And you look at the variety, not just the weapons Alabama has in their wide receiver room, it's how unique or maybe how varied the personnel is. Ryan Williams, everyone pops on the Georgia tape last year when they talk about Ryan Williams. Again, I'll be really interested to see how they use him Saturday, above and beyond the obvious. Jeremy Bernard is the best receiver that they've had. Kirby Smart talked about that earlier this week. I agree with him. Isaiah Horton, a different, bigger-bodied type guy. The one I think could break out is Latsier Brooks in this game. You got a lot of guys that you got to account for here. I don't know that Georgia's secondary is as deep with proven talent. In fact, I know they're not as they have been in the past. Their defense is 92nd in the country right now in 30-plus yard pass plays given up. That's because they played Tennessee and most other folks haven't. Okay, so that warps the stat category a little bit, but then you think to yourself, this group could do exactly what Tennessee did to you, albeit in your own building, if you give them time. So that's the Bama side of things offensively. Then you talk about the Georgia side of things offensively, and I just want you to fill in this blank for me. Georgia protecting Gunner Stockton is what? Is it a huge issue all night? Is it sort of an issue? Is it spotty? Is it a non-issue? Does this offensive line just beautifully answer the bell? If they do, Georgia could win this thing by double digits. One of the things you got to bank on if you're siding with Alabama in this game is they're the number 5 team in the country, according to PFF at least, in pressure rate. And they're facing a really vulnerable offensive line. As of this moment, I got no clue what Georgia's going to do on the right side of their offensive line. But that quick pass game's got to be there. Their run game's got to be there. You talk about a competitive character test, a manhood test. It makes a lot of this academic if you can just run the ball for 4.8 yards per carry. That wouldn't set the world on fire. It wouldn't set records, but it'd be good enough for Georgia to then also incorporate that quarterback run game, which a lot of these teams with quarterbacks that have mobility about themselves gear up for these games. That's where it's worked into the script. And elsewhere, it's just kind of, we know we can win by throwing our helmet out there. I look forward to seeing the tight end position in this game as well, because I think the tight end position, Delp, Lawson Lucky, guys that would, be they're stars there, but they're the kinds of guys, if I plugged them in Penn State's offense randomly, would shine, would be leading receiver type material. Georgia happens to have loaded up at wide receiver a fair amount themselves, which leads me to my next point. For all the weaponry we're talking about with Alabama, Georgia, they've got some guys out wide too. They specifically retooled that room, I think, for games like this. They watched what Bama did to them last year to get out to that early lead, and then they responded. But I think their skill set is different above and beyond this year in the wide receiver department now than it was last year. I really think they want the option, if they get in those types of games, to feel totally comfortable. That's in our wheelhouse now. It's not uncomfortable at all. That's in our wheelhouse. The intangibles in this game probably matter about as much as any of these big games this Saturday. You can talk all you want to about Bama being on the road and think it has this reverse psychological effect of, if I talk about it enough, maybe it won't be an issue. It's an issue until proven otherwise, guys. That Oklahoma result's not going away. That Vandy result's not going away. That Florida State result's not going away. And people want to get mad at it, they can get mad at it. They've been a different team on the road than they have been at home. That's got to change, or else you chalk these games up as losses. But Georgia's got a Bama issue as well. And if you don't think that's real, then I don't really know that you've been watching this. I have watched Georgia torment Tennessee. Torment them. I've watched Bama torment Georgia. So if you're a Georgia fan and you believe in that intangible variable mattering in the Tennessee matchup, it matters here as well. Let's take a look at what the model thinks about this game. The FanDuel number right now is Georgia minus 2.5, which changed this afternoon, right, Jesse? I think it changed this afternoon. Model kind of agrees with what it already was. Model's got Georgia -3.5. Here's where I'm going with this. The exact same way I went when Georgia went up to Neyland Stadium. If I'm going to be proven wrong on this, I'm going to be proven wrong by Georgia losing in a place they haven't lost in since, I don't know, it's been a long, long time. If I'm going to be proven wrong, I'm going to be proven wrong by Bama thriving on the road instead of struggling like they have recently. So until I see both of those things change simultaneously, to me, this is Georgia's game. So I'll take Georgia to win. I'll take Georgia to cover. And we'll be there. Either way, we will be there. Looking really, really forward to that one. That is about the most intense matchup that I've seen in this league over the past several years. We had that crazy stat. Jesse, I can't remember exactly what it was. We should have written it down. That matchup, Georgia or Alabama, that's been every SEC champ since like 2014 except for 1 year when LSU won it in 2019. Crazy. Quick Trip will fuel us. We'll be at the USC-Illinois game early Saturday. We'll hop down to Athens for the primetime kickoff. Quick Trip will fuel it all. Maybe even some cold brew on tap along the way. Who knows, if we're lucky. Quick Trip fuels the entire tour. They fueled the tour last year. They are fueling the Fall Don't Lie tour this year. Now, they did not commission that beautiful artwork. They could have, but Prez took care of the artwork. But yeah, they just say, hey, wherever you want to go, just point to it on a map. We'll get you there. Done and done. And then, just for good measure, they toss out a whole lot of free gas to you guys. So, I do that at my leisure. They've given me full freedom to just throw out gas cards whenever I want to. And as you can see, if you're following me on the socials, at Josh Pate CFB, I proudly do that. So, that game is brought to you by Quick Trip. The entire fall tour is brought to you by Quick Trip. We appreciate and love Quick Trip around here. Next up, the big matchups just never end. We got monster game after monster game. Oregon at Penn State. We've waited for this one. This is Saturday. This is 7:30 Eastern on NBC. You know what that means, kids. Whiteout in conference play. Whomst amongst us thought we'd ever see it again? We thought the whiteout was a thing of the past. Like Andy Griffith in black and white. You hear about it from the olds, but you think, I'll never see it myself. Well, here it is. We see the whiteout as God intended it. At night, in front of the world, with a top 5 opponent in town. Number 2 versus number 3 in the Big Ten odds right here. Number 2 versus number 3 in the college football playoff odds. Let's go ahead and get it out of the way. We have to do it. James Franklin is a massive friend of this program. James Franklin is also 4-20 versus the top 10 at Penn State. There you go. All right, I read the stat. You know the thing. I read the stat. The dynamics give Penn State a massive edge here. We've talked about it since spring because we had the schedule in hand already. So here's what Oregon's working against. Poor Oregon. At last check, they're still going to show up. But poor Oregon. They are taking a young team on the road for the first time. Penn State is off a bye, so you've got that just alone. That's a huge deal. You've got the whiteout. You've got Oregon having ripped Montana State and Oklahoma State and Northwestern and Oregon State to pieces, and no one's put an ounce of pressure on them. And now the pressure is going to be felt in what some would call the most hostile environment college football has to offer. I wouldn't even be pushing back on that. By the way, I've seen a whiteout, but it was Auburn. And Jesse tells me that that's not as good as what this will be. That's what Jesse tells me, at least. So that's what you have to go up against if you're Oregon. Make no mistake about this. All the keys everyone's going to point out, this is about Drew Aller. That's who this game's about. There is a world where Penn State runs for 200 and they still lose. And I know that because I watched them run for 297 against Oregon in the Big Ten championship game last year, and guess what? They still lost. So, all due respect to the ground game, I assume they'll get theirs. I know they will. No one's going to shut down Penn State running the ball. But Drew Aller, some of these look like typos. He's 2 of 9 on throws of over 20 yards in the air so far this year. Now, Josh, they hadn't played anybody. You're right. I'll get back to that in a second. Also, They've had 6 explosive passes all year. That's good for 95th in the country. So top 100, I guess. Josh, but they haven't played anybody. All right, I've heard you guys say that to me over and over again. Here's my question. Are you insinuating they're holding something back? Of course they're holding something back. Are you insinuating to me that Penn State actually just possesses the ability to stretch the field vertically any old time they want to, and they've simply bottled that up so far? If you're right, this is a really big deal. And if you're right, I need to pick Penn State to win this game, and they will emerge from this as a bona fide national championship contender. Now, Oregon has the 50th run defense in the country. So again, I expect Penn State to do a fair amount of business on the ground. Like I said, they ran it for 300 in the Big Ten championship game. They lost. So that is not the padlock stat that some want to make it out to be. Now, here's what else has to happen here. Dante Moore, quarterback for Oregon, really good player, has not faced this kind of environment. They got to go in there and try to maintain what they've been doing and avoid the crowbar. They got to avoid crowbar theory working its way into this game. They've had 31 plays of 20-plus through the air already this year. And if you hadn't watched Oregon, and judging by their competition so far, you probably haven't, he's near 75% completion. So if I'm a Penn State fan, I'm listening to that. I'm just, yeah, I know he's good. Yeah, he hadn't faced us. And you're right. He hadn't faced you. DeCorian Moore versus A.J. Harris, if that's the matchup we get in this game, A.J. Harris, I think he's been thrown at like once all year. No one's dumb enough to even throw to him. Central of Phoenix City high school product, by the way. Oregon will throw that way. I don't care who you're putting on DeCorian Moore, they're going to make you prove that there's not anything to be done on that side of the field. But Oregon's offensive line going on the road against the number 12 pressure rate defense in the country, that's really what we're looking at here. Because there is, of course, as much as I said there's a world where Penn State's rushing numbers don't end up being the end-all, be-all, there is a world where they do end up winning the game because Penn State and the pressure they can put on Oregon kind of puts them in a blender, and Penn State realizes, we can compress the game. Oh, wow, 23 is going to win this game. 24 points going to win this game. Wow, well, maybe Drew doesn't need to throw it all over the place. Yeah, that's possible. Remember, Jim Knowles, who is the DC at Penn State now, faced Oregon twice last year. Faced Will Stein twice last year. Once in Eugene, and then they just completely overhaul everything about their approach and suffocated them a few months later in Pasadena. It was like not even the same teams playing. Penn State's got to finish drives here. They got to finish drives. So, touchdown percentage in the red zone. Oregon 16th. Penn State 88th. What I cannot stand, especially if I'm picking Penn State, is I can't stand these games where I got a lot of hope as they're moving down the field. The Ohio State game was kind of like this last year. Got a lot of hope moving down the field, and then just settle for three, because the other guy sometimes doesn't settle for three. If it's that kind of game, again, if it just goes the way that is not Penn State, can't you hear the call-in shows? Can't you imagine the message board threads? Oh, more of the same. Look good between the 20s, couldn't finish drives, 30-26 final because we couldn't punch it in, and they did. I mean, especially when you've got all these edges tilted your way. Oh, this is a very young Oregon team on the road. There's every reason for them to just go learn a tough lesson against you, and you teach the tough lesson. You win this game because you're supposed to win this game. And they lose this game, and they look and say, it's not the end of the world. We'll be a different team 2 months from now. That's the way this is kind of supposed to play out. What has Penn State saved for this game? To get back to that theory, strong working theory, a lot of my Penn State folks share this theory, and that is, offense has been pretty bowling shoe ugly so far. That's okay, though. That's okay because we haven't had to show anything. People have been talking about Penn State's first 3 games like they're spring games. We're not showing anything against Nevada or FIU or Villanova. Cool. Well, if that theory is correct, and to some extent it has to be correct, this is where you break it out. I got an over-under for you. This is not available at FanDuel. It could be. Jesse, call FanDuel. I got a good prop for them. So, my prop is, well, first let me tell you my theory. I think there are issues with the Penn State passing game. I don't think Penn State's going to light the world on fire through the air. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm probably not, though. So here's my question. How many Penn State snaps does Drew Aller not take? Now, I'm not talking about injury. Okay, no one's predicting injury. Drew Allar's healthy Saturday. I'm asking you, how many snaps offensively for Penn State go to someone other than Drew Allar? And I'm going to set the over-under at 5.5. Where do you go? Penn State folks especially. Where do you go? I think I'm over. We moved it from 4.5 to 5.5, so there was some internal movement in the office today. I'm going to take the over. I think they get as not desperate, but competitively creative as a Penn State offensive game plan has been in quite a while. I think they know they have to do it. That's how I think the game will play out. Having said that, let's take a look at what the model thinks. FanDuel right now has Penn State as a 3.5-point favorite. The model disagrees completely. It has it at a pick'em. So the model's strong lean towards Oregon. I'm going to make a principled call here. I'm going to go against the model. And 75% of our audience, apparently in the poll I posted earlier today, Penn State's just got to win this game. They've just got to win the game. You could not write this thing with any more edge tilted towards Penn State than there is. So, of course, Oregon, phenomenal team. By the end of the year, if they face off again, I'd probably pick Oregon. In this spot, I'm just telling you, I think it's a desperation spot for Penn State. They have geared up for this thing all spring, all summer. They know what's at stake. They know, if they lose this thing, the odds of going into Columbus and winning in another month or two, not great. It's going to be tough anyway. They've just got to get it. One of these things, one of these big games eventually has to go their way. And I just think, if you're listening on podcast, I'm doing that thing where you put the index finger and the thumb on the insides of the eyes, but I don't even have a headache. I'm just preparing. I'm going to take Penn State in a big game. I'm going to take James Franklin in a big game. There's the poll, immunity. I posted this earlier today. We got nearly 14,000 votes on this. And I basically posed this question. The entire fate of the world rides on you being right. Who wins this game Saturday? And 74% of the country picked the 3.5-point underdog to win the game outright. So where are we as a society? I'm going to ask a lot of Mike Gundy questions here. Where are we as a society? 75% of you say, I don't even need the points. Just give me Oregon outright. My goodness. Speaking of Mike Gundy. Hard transition there, Bradley. I know it's tough. We lost an American icon today. He's okay. He's perfectly healthy. It's just Mike Gundy lost his job. And this is huge news. He was the second longest tenured head coach in major college football. Kirk Ferentz at Iowa is the only other one. Mike Gundy had the Oklahoma State job for 21 seasons. Quickly, those of you who are listening out there, who was the head coach at Oklahoma State before Mike Gundy? Who did Mike Gundy replace at Oklahoma State? If numbers don't mean anything to you, I'm about to make it hit home. Les Miles was the coach that Mike Gundy replaced. Miles has long since been at LSU for a long time, been gone from LSU for a long time, coached at Kansas and is gone from there now. And Mike Gundy was still just hanging out in Stillwater. Oh, by the way, from 2006 to 2023, above 500 every year. Just an incredible run. And it ended poorly, as most tenures do. Very few of them end on your terms. But there's a bunch of young adults around Stillwater who have never known an Oklahoma State coaching search. I got folks in their early to mid-20s who either weren't alive or were and can't remember the last time this job ever came open. So let's do a quick check here. We already had Brent Pry fired at Virginia Tech. We had Deshaun Foster fired at UCLA. Now we got Mike Gundy fired at Oklahoma State. I think it's fair to ask the question, well, if they were on such unstable footing that it's September 23rd and you're already ready to fire him, why did they start the season as your head coach? Very complex questions. However, sometimes people overthink the room, and when you ask that question, you're asking the right question. I always ask that. Anytime a guy loses his job in September, just the principled side of me thinks, okay, if he had less than 4 weeks of rope left, why did he ever start the season to begin with? So here's kind of the long and short of it. and maybe Mike Gundy will tell his story eventually. I don't know. I think he was already checked out this year. The word was that it was a complete disaster behind the scenes at Oklahoma State. And the word was they came to him and sort of strong-armed him into taking a pay cut this past year. And the pay cut, the money saved from the pay cut, was going to go into the NIL fund. And then he took the pay cut, and then the money didn't really go where he expected it to go. A lot of staffers kind of got out of Dodge when they could. And I really think Mike Gundy was just kind of on autopilot this year. He acted like it. He carried himself like it from afar. And I don't blame him. I don't even blame him. Hate that there are players there whose one experience in college football has to be burned during this. The AD today comes out, flat out says, I'm not worried about this year, the next few weeks. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the next several years. Cool. Screw you to all the guys still here. Oh, but by the way, we expect you to suit up and play every Saturday. You know. It's an opportunity here for Oklahoma State, obviously, to go make a new hire. He was not afforded the opportunity to retire and finish the season, reportedly. So there were some mixed reports out there earlier today. They came to him and said, do you want to announce your retirement? We'll let you, finish the season. Apparently that wasn't the case. These folks hated each other. I mean, Mike Gundy wasn't getting along with anyone in the administration there. That's well known in Oklahoma State circles. I just know people who live in Ann Arbor, Michigan, aren't paying a whole lot of attention to Oklahoma State. So Mike Gundy's next move, according to those close to him, is he wants to get right back into coaching. Football coaches are put on this earth to coach. I got no problem. Coach till you're 100 for all I care. But selfishly, I hope he takes a few years off from coaching, because Mike Gundy, unfiltered, with a microphone in front of him, would be about as entertaining as any pregame show could hope to produce to you. Any kind of studio show could hope to offer you. I don't even know which network. It could be us for all I care. I've never co-hosted the show with anyone. If Mike Gundy hit us up and said, I want to do a few shows with you, done. Me and Mike Gundy, and I'd probably shut up most of the time. It'd be that amazing. Now, you could say he was never really all that filtered even as a coach. You're right. But even I know, even you and I know, he held some stuff back. I'd just love to hear his take on the game with no consequences tied to it. I'd love to hear that. I mean, Mike Gundy on television would be must-see. And there aren't many people out there that are really must-see appointment viewing for me. That would be one of them. What kind of job is this? I don't really know that I've fully formed my opinion on this yet. I'm looking at my phone right now, and there are several people who have hit me up even as we've been on air to talk about this very subject. I think Zach Robinson, who is the OC right now for the Atlanta Falcons, I certainly think from the donor class there, he's the overwhelming favorite. If I had to guess, I would say I think he'll get the job. I have no idea because, again, I got to talk to a lot of people before I have any kind of opinion. So mine's just a guess on that front. But if you've got a coaching opening right now, and you're looking to go the up-and-coming coordinator route, boy, it's a good time. It's a good time. Shannon Dawson's down at Miami, phenomenal coach. Will Stein at Oregon, Ben Arbuckle at Oklahoma just down the road. I mean, Arbuckle could live in the same house he's in right now. Colin Klein, can you imagine Oklahoma State going and grabbing Colin Klein before Kansas State can have their job open and go get Colin Klein? My goodness. But I just wonder, I'm always fascinated by this because it's a very, very tumultuous time in college athletics. So I'm always fascinated at the perception of a job, the profile of a job. Virginia Tech, same way. What do you think about the job? That's the first thing I'm asking coaches. That's the first thing I'm asking agents. How do you see that job? And that's what will dominate a lot of my free time over the next few days. I have huge news here, though. You think Mike Gundy being fired today was big news? We got a new partner. We got a new partner. When we took control of our show, one of my main motivations was I wanted to make sure that we had full control to say no anytime that some executive came to us with some company that was going to buy advertising on our show. Because I only want to present brands on our show that we actually believe in and have relationships with, and you can't do that if you're working for someone else. So we never really had issues with this, but I wanted to get ahead of the curve on it. So when we took ownership of the show, I promised you guys, hey, when we have a partner on the show, you're going to have tangible benefit from it, and number one. And number two, you can rest assured that we're partnering with them because we love them, because we got a relationship with them. And we say no to millions of dollars per year because we can say no to it, because we have full right of refusal on that. Let me tell you who we said yes to. So I've been working back and forth with a company called Flex Power, talking to them back and forth. We are launching a partnership with them tonight. I'm ecstatic about it because they are longtime viewers of the show. So they are friends of Pate State. So they are like you, except they may just happen to run a company, which is just a small difference. It's not that big a difference. Here is why I wanted to partner with them. Because when I walk through a sea of tailgating every single weekend, I see generators all over the place. And then growing up, I would watch my dad need to do stuff and fix stuff. It could be do it around the house type stuff. It could be powering a pitching machine when we went out to hit baseballs. But bring the generator out there with you. Homeowners, especially when storms move through, been a very inactive hurricane season so far, if anyone's paying attention to the Atlantic Basin. But that could change just like that. We're in mid-September. It's the peak of hurricane season right now. You need backup generators. You need the Flex 330i is the product, by the way, that I would recommend you going to myflexpower.com and checking out. They're good friends of the program. I'm very happy to be with them. I think in time you'll learn about the products they have. But I would just encourage you, again, this is something most of you need anyway. It's one of the number one things on any to-do list out there is, man, we need to get a generator. We've got to make sure we get a generator. Good. Get the best. And get it from friends of ours over at myflexpower.com. Always happy to introduce a new partner because we don't do it very often. But when we do, we're introducing friends of the program. So there you go. LSU. Sorry, Bradley, jumped the gun a little bit. LSU at Ole Miss Saturday, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Grove time kickoff. ABC is the network. This was a 4.5 Chali game last year. There was a field storming last year. And remember, this is a game LSU won in overtime, and they never led for a second. You know how rare that is to win a game, and you never led for a second. They hit, I think, walk-off field goal, walk-off touchdown, whatever it was. So, big question around this thing. Oh, who's going to start at quarterback for Ole Miss? I don't care. Either one of them will be good. That's my professional analysis there. I don't care. I know they got 5 different wide receivers with 130-plus yards receiving so far. So no matter whomst has been playing, they've been spreading the ball around. Remember, we are not using the word controversy on this show. When you got 2 good quarterbacks, it's not controversial. That's competition. That's depth. It's not controversy at all. But I regret to inform you the thing is happening again for LSU. And the stat profile is starting to reflect it. 31st in passing yards per game, 112th in rushing yards per game. So once again, we're going to do this, huh? Now, the difference is they got a really good defense they can lean on. So it hasn't cost them a game yet. Garrett Nussmeier's been far less than 100%, and yet they're still throwing the ball much better than they're running the ball. I don't get it. It shouldn't be an issue there, but it is. And the big issue this weekend is that is absolutely how you attack Ole Miss. Ole Miss has the 122nd run defense in the country. And it may not even matter because LSU hadn't been able to run the ball. So LSU needs to run the ball here. Please, if ever it shows up, make it show up this week. It's a huge prove-it spot for that offensive line because one thing I do know about Ole Miss is they can get after you, especially on the edge, and doubly especially if you're vulnerable at tackle, they can get after you. And triply especially if you're in a bunch of obvious passing downs on 3rd down. So I go back to the same question we asked about LSU in the preseason. We'll just ask it about this game. What are you asking Garrett Nussmeier to do? Last year, I thought they asked him to do an unfair amount of things. Hopefully, he's not asked to shoulder an unfair amount of the load against Saturday. Now, what does Lane Kiffin see against this LSU secondary? They had 15 designed QB runs last week with Trinidad Chambliss playing. So I expect that to be baked into the game plan again here. LSU 43rd pass D, 10th rushing D. You would think in the preseason, looking at the fact that they had to face Cade Klubnik, Clemson, week 1. They got to face DJ Lagway a few weeks later. You would think by the time they play at Ole Miss, they will have faced 2 really good passing attacks. Nope. Now, could be that LSU's the common denominator there. LSU just makes you look foolish. That may be the case. If that's the case, then we need it again here. I need full American hero Blake Baker mode from the defense. I think LSU needs to play with the lead. That's what I think. They have had 12 first-quarter possessions so far this year. 3 touchdowns, 2 turnovers, 6 punts, 1 missed field goal. And the problem here is Ole Miss can jump you. And if they do, and you look up and it's 14-3, then what do? Well, you panic a little bit in your play calling, and you just got to throw the ball 54 times. And that is not where we want to be. I don't even care if Nussmeier is fully healthy. That is not where we want to be here. That's not putting me in a good enough position or a fair position. So there are a couple of games this weekend where I actually think road team grabbing an early lead, don't have to lead it, but be within 1 possession. Don't ever be in catch-up mode. I think it's imperative. Let's take a look at what the model thinks. So right now, you need to know LSU opened as a favorite in this game. It has crossed 0. Ole Miss, as of this evening, and it is Thursday evening if you're watching the replay, Ole Miss is now a 1.5-point favorite. And let me tell you, the model says not enough. That line needs to keep on moving to catch up with where the model is. The model is all the way up to Ole Miss -4. Model thinks that the wrong team was favored. The model now thinks the right team is favored, but it's still not enough. Model thinks Ole Miss wins and covers, and I do too. So give me Ole Miss to win. Give me Ole Miss to cover. I think there's still some issues with this LSU team. They've been masked a little bit because they have won games, which is very good. And I also fully believe in the theory that it's possible for a team to have issues early in the year and get them worked out as the season goes on. Sometimes that happens, like with Florida last year, but it was too late because they had already lost a bunch of games by the time they figured it out. Well, if you can play defense like LSU has so far, maybe you don't have to lose. Maybe you keep winning ugly, and then you just end up winning. Maybe. They're watching us in Lawrenceville, Georgia. Shanghai, China? They said they're using a VPN over there. I won't tell if you won't. They're checking us out in Bloomington, Indiana. Also tuned in, especially our friends in Bloomington will want to stay tuned in for the JP poll release later, because I have it on good authority that a local team there in Bloomington, can't get more specific than that, is a big riser in the JP poll. In the meantime, Auburn at Texas A&M is a huge game. Saturday, 3:30 Eastern kickoff on ESPN. Really bad schedule dynamics for Auburn. This is why that Oklahoma game was so important. They go in there, they lose to Oklahoma, and you knew even in the spring, boy, if that game goes sideways for them, if they lose that game, they got to go right back on the road again against a rested A&M team. So it's your 5th game in a row. It's the second leg of back-to-back road games, and you're facing a rested team at home. And they may be better than you anyway. So that's all you got to do, Hugh Freeze and Auburn. All you got to do is go in there and win in those circumstances. Now, I got good news for A&M. Not that. I've got more good news for A&M. They're living off explosive passes. I happen to have more good news. Auburn is 108th in explosive passes allowed so far this year. Sounds pretty fundamental. Do we want to go ahead and predict the game? Not quite so fast. We have not seen, at Auburn at least, a pair like Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver. They haven't seen talent like that. And look, Oklahoma's got good players at wide receiver. These two are playing, especially Craver's playing about as well as anyone in the country is playing right now. It could feel a lot like the Notre Dame game, though. You go into that one and you look at it from months away and you think, boy, if A&M's going to go up there and win, ground and pound, man, they got to go do Notre Dame better than Notre Dame does Notre Dame. Well, that wasn't what happened. They ran it for less than 150, but they threw the ball all over the place. And this is an Auburn run defense that is number 1 in yards per attempt allowed. They're allowing less than 2 yards per carry. So either Texas A&M inverts that stat category or they got to throw the ball again. And they can, because Auburn is very susceptible to it on the back end. What that does, though, and if you watch that Notre Dame game, you saw Marcel Reed win the game for him, but you also saw some very, very interceptable balls that just weren't picked off. He's 58.6% completion right now. So if you make A&M throw the ball, they can embarrass you doing it. They can also throw the ball to you. So it's part of the risk reward. If we're going to play that kind of ball at A&M, it's part of the risk reward. Another spot here, I think, where the road team needs a really, really fast start. Grab a lead or at least respond and be within one possession or in the lead, because I cannot be asking Jackson Arnold to be on the road playing catch-up. It's the same as I said with Nussmeier, but I trust Arnold a lot less than Nuss, of course. But it's the same thing here. If they're having to ask him to throw the ball an inordinate amount of times, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work for them. A&M's pass rush, Kyle Field, just... And by the way, a quarterback that I don't think they trust to throw the ball all over the middle of the field. I know they tried some last week to some success. That's not where you're going to live in this game if you're Auburn. Jeremiah Cobb's a really good tailback for them. Jackson Arnold versus I think they're the 72nd run D in the country right now, A&M. So test that. Run on it. This could be the kind of game, if you're wondering how Auburn could win this thing. Number one, they got really good football players, and they're desperate. So that's the first way they could win it. The second way they could win it is where you get a kind of game, dust settles, you look at the box score, they had 19 passes and 52 runs because they started converting 1st and 10, 2nd, 5, 3rd and 2, move the chains, just continue to put together these long, time-consuming drives. And Marcel Reed maybe a little erratic passing, and there's some 3-and-outs on the other side. Auburn starts to tilt time of possession, which is a Parker Fleming special, really advanced stat category. I know he loves it, Stats of War. But more importantly, you start to control game tempo. You start to control possessions. You start to control how often Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver are on the field, and you're playing your game. You're running the ball. Quarterback runs probably an instrumental part there, but it's just a much lower risk approach. If Auburn wins this game, I guarantee you it could be 2-to-1. Run-to-pass ratio. My concern is too much will have to be asked of Jackson Arnold. Because as much as what I just said sounds good, pretty sure they're aware of that strategy over at A&M as well. And they're going to be well prepared for this game. Jackson Arnold last week got sacked 10 times, and I heard a lot of people just immediately start criticizing the Auburn offensive line. And I'm not absolving them. I think it was more to it than just, the Auburn offensive line was a sieve. There were some times Jackson Arnold just sat there and held the ball. And I'm not sitting here pretending I'm some quarterback aficionado, but it seemed like if read number 1 was covered up, it was really tough getting through that progression to read 2, read 3. And again, this is not the place to find yourself. Kyle Field is not the kind of place you figure things out as a quarterback. Let's take a look at what the model thinks. FanDuel right now has Texas A&M minus 6.5. The model is a little north of that. We've got A&M minus 7.5. It's the kind of spot like Florida was in 2 weeks ago at LSU. Even last week when Florida was at Miami. You think to yourself, ultra talented, back against the wall, wounded animal mode. This is just the kind of game where that kind of team shows up. Somehow they find a way. The old bear crawl over broken glass approach, but they're in it at the end. And that's what my instinct tells me about this game. The problem is the dynamics are such that you can have a hard-fought game and it ends up being 30-20 because there's a late touchdown, just a backbreaker. I'm going to take A&M to win and cover. The number's minus 6.5, by the way. I'm going to take A&M to win and cover. And if I'm right, that's a tough spot for Auburn. You're already down 2 conference games over this little 8-day stretch here. That'd be tough. What's not tough is figuring out where to get your clothing, to get your sporting equipment, and I mean balls, bats, but also tents, canopies, any kind of outdoor gear you need. You want to go fishing, you can do it at Academy. Well, they don't have the actual pond there per se, but all the equipment you would need is there. I mean, at that point, nature provides the rest of it. Academy Sports and Outdoors, longtime partner of ours. The way we look at this, again, with the partners that we choose is we go with folks who have stuff you're going to buy anyway. I know you guys are tailgating. I know you're sitting out on the dock at home if you're not tailgating. I know you need chairs to sit in. Make sure they say Academy on the back. It's great. It's like designer clothing, but it's designer chairs instead, and they're much more affordable. The canopies, so you don't walk away from that tailgate. The color of our logo here, can't have that, guys. Sunburn, sun poisoning, it's a real thing. No one gets it when they're under one of those academy canopy tents. Plus, it makes you more popular. More people want to hang out with you. Now, if you're a social recluse, ignore what I just said. But most of you have a little butterfly about you. Academy helps there. Look, I would even go as far as to say you can make friends at Academy, but I know some of you don't have one right there in your hometown. But you do have the internet because you're watching the show or listening. And so you can go to academy.com and find basically anything you need, and then Big League Chew in the checkout line. We continue. I mean, to be very clear, I want to remind you before anyone complains, we're not even getting to all the games tonight. We'll have several more games we don't even hit until Thursday. So, if you're wondering where your game is, it's probably on the Thursday show, which hasn't happened yet. Ohio State at Washington is just great. Saturday, 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 local kick. It's the CBS game. Man, so Brad and Gary and Jenny Dell in Lincoln, Nebraska last week, all the way up to Seattle this week. Whew, some travel. I happen to know some of them live in South Florida, so that's some travel. Ohio State hitting the West Coast. A venue most of those fans have not been to. They went out to Oregon last year. That was a great scene. I am telling you, if you're on the fence, buy the tickets. I'll give you a discount later in the show, actually. Buy the tickets. Go to the game. Go see this. Get there as early as you can. If you got upper deck tickets, by the way, get in there the moment they open those gates. Get up to your seat as quick as you can before the place is filled up and experience what I experienced 2 years ago when I went to the Oregon game. And that is watching the silence, the serenity over the water there. Now, the sun's already up by this point. I got in there to watch the sunrise. It's just amazing. Place is like a screensaver. It's really amazing. Ohio State is 6-0 off a bye week under Ryan Day. But Georgia, notably, has the longest home win streak in the country. Who do you think is number 2? It is Washington. So, not the easiest place to go play, contrary to the belief of people mainly who haven't been there. This is a big test for each of these offensive lines, you know. Number 1 and number 6 in pressure rate without blitzing, according to True Media. Those are the two defenses that we're talking about here. So they've gotten home. They hadn't had to bring extra pressure to do it. Washington, the other thing I'm excited to see here, they are known to man up on these receivers about as much as any team in FBS. And I'm looking at that and thinking, surely that changes against Ohio State, right? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. It's a bold strategy, bolder than anything you see in dodgeball. If you just look at Jeremiah Smith and Brandon Ennis and Carnell Tate and all these guys and say, you know, I like our corners one-on-one against you guys. Well, that's what they make popcorn for. Damon Williams is one of my favorite players. Most of you haven't watched him play a lot. He's a starting quarterback at Washington. This is sort of the game I've circled. Not as his coming out party. It's really hard to do that against Ohio State. Could happen. Hard to do that against Ohio State. I just know this is the moment most of America will really be watching him for the first time. And I wonder, is it mostly his arm or is it the full arsenal? Because he runs the ball fairly effectively, but I don't know, Ohio State just looks too good to run the ball on. It looks too good for a quarterback run to be an integral part of what you do, at least from a planned play call standpoint. So if we are to believe that Ohio State will limit what he does with his legs, it's tough. He is a surefire weapon with him. But if they can limit it, he is a 73% passer. He is a 6 touchdowns, no interception guy so far. They just haven't played anybody. Many teams haven't played anybody. But you know what? What if you're legit and you haven't played anyone? You're still legit. It's just people don't know it yet because you haven't played anyone. I lean towards that. But I'm a big believer. I'm a big believer in Damon Williams. Washington, number 1 in FBS in third down conversions right now. So you want a padlock stat, look at Damon Williams on the ground. That's one. And then I think the second more important is Washington offense, third down conversion rate. What's it looking like? Because, I mean, Ohio State turns a lot of people's stat profile on its ear. We'll see if they do that. I mean, remember, look, just a few weeks ago, there were so many questions about this Ohio State defense. And then they shut Texas down. And everyone thought the questions were answered. But then people kept watching Texas saying, gross. And you haven't watched Ohio State again since then. because they haven't really played anybody. So who knows if there may not be some kind of weakness or some kind of flaw or some kind of crack exposed by a really good coaching staff up there at Washington and a really good quarterback at Washington. I think they need a turnover here. I think Washington probably needs to be plus in the turnover battle and a reason to believe. So that's something that probably happens early in the game. I don't care if it's special teams or a turnover. Or Damon Williams just finds a crease for 73 yards and a score. Something needs to happen early. If it does, then it's game on. And if it does, then my friends there from Columbus traveling up to the great Pacific Northwest get to experience one of the underrated venues in American sports at full throat. And it's nothing to be trifled with, as Meemaw would say. It's still early enough. One thing I want to keep saying about these big games, it's still early enough in the season where there are unknowns about these contending teams that will be exposed. Now, they could be revealed, so that's a positive, or they could be exposed. So I'm saying this about anybody. Oregon, it could happen. Penn State, it could happen. Ohio State, it could happen. And the way it would happen is you just face a different kind of player, a different collection of talent, a different scheme, etc., than you've seen so far. And it just so happens those guys are the ones built to expose you. Here's the problem. That could just as easily, if not more easily, happen to Washington. They're sitting there 3-0 as well, So no one's beaten them. No one's come close to them. Now they face Ohio State. So there could be cracks all in your dam as well. And it's just that here comes the water pressure for the first time. Let's take a look at what the model thinks. We got Ohio State minus 8.5 at FanDuel right now. And that number dropped a little bit earlier this week, and it came down right to where the model already is. We got Ohio State minus 8.5 as well. I think I'm going to split the difference here. I think Ohio State will go win this game. I think it's going to be very competitive. An upset would mildly surprise but not shock me at all. I will take Washington plus the points. Anything above 8, we're getting it right now. I'll take Washington plus 8.5. They cannot match Ohio State man for man. Most teams can't. But I think there's some unique, dynamic athletes Washington has, namely at the quarterback position. That along with home field and an inexperienced Ohio State team really experiencing that kind of environment for the first time this year, I think something crazy could happen. At the very least, I think the home team can cover there. So give me Washington plus the points. I do like Ohio State outright, though. I appreciate all you guys being tuned in live. I know you got a lot to do. Did you hear the train horn outside? Yes, that was not a sound effect that Bradley played. I know a lot of you have stuff to do on a Tuesday night in the fall. I appreciate you watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I do want to tell you, first off, I plead with you to subscribe. We're on track to hit 500K subs before the end of the year. The question becomes twofold. Number one, when will it happen? Number two, how do we celebrate? I'm open to taking suggestions. How do we celebrate? And I don't want to count our chickens, but it's simple math. So it's probably going to happen unless I suspend myself. It's probably going to happen. Get us there. Word of mouth works phenomenally. I get DMs every day from you guys showing me the proof that you have gotten your mom to subscribe or your cousin Charles to subscribe. Welcome, Mom. Welcome, Charles. Welcome all. And if you're new here, this is the part of the show that will make the least amount of sense to you. JP poll is out for week 5. I got hard disagreement with my own model this week. We're not on speaking terms. I haven't even looked at the screen. So here's the situation. These are not my rankings, but I'm glad that I do my rankings. See, there it is. There's the helpful tutorial there. These are not rankings. That is on Thursday. And I did not used to give out my own rankings because everyone else does it. But the more and more I look at the JP poll stray further from God, the more and more I realize, no, the commissioner's poll is needed. I'll put this out and we'll listen to a solid 48 hours of moaning and complaining. And in this case, it's going to be warranted because the JP poll is fairly ridiculous this week. And then I'll put out the best rankings in the land on Thursday, right as we gear up for a weekend's action. Let's start at 20, okay? Let's start at 20. I took the suggestions from the podcast crowd. I don't do it in random order. I do it in true countdown order here. Vandy is in the JP poll. They are at number 20. They are up 3 spots. But here's the most important part. From a raw power rating standpoint, they are up 7 points from their preseason rating. That's a huge jump. Vandy being a legit top 20 power rating team is a massive deal. So good for them. Michigan is up 6 spots. They're at 19. That's a big jump for them. USC's at number 18. They go to Illinois. I will see them in person for the first time this year, but not the first time ever, Saturday. That was one mistake I made on the show the other night. I was all excited. Oh, man, the Fall Don't Lie Tour is headed to Illinois. We're going to see USC in person. I said, I've never seen a USC game in person before. And then it was brought to my attention that 3 years ago, I went out to the Rose Bowl and saw them beat UCLA. Fact. So there you go. USC. It doesn't change their power rating. They're number 18. Eli Drinkwitz has Missouri at number 17. They got a quarterback playing phenomenally right now. They are set up to make a run. I think Missouri is one of several teams that are normally looked at as like paper tiger types, kind of pun intended, that really could be legitimate playoff, not just playoff contenders, but teams that could do something if they make it this year. I feel the same way about a certain other team that's number 12. I'll get to them in a second. Florida State is number 16. I don't know. They're playing Miami this upcoming week, though. The week after this upcoming week. So we'll figure a lot out about them. I am so excited to break that game down next week. All right, top 15, Bradley. Let's go. LSU. Very peculiar. Very peculiar. LSU, they are down 4 points in the power rating from where they were 3 weeks ago, which means they are down to number 15 overall. The model just keeps not buying what LSU's selling. It's not that they don't deserve to be ranked high. I'm going to have them ranked top 5 come Thursday when the commissioner's poll comes out. So they deserve to be ranked top 5. But as for neutral field favorability, and you can take it or leave it as to whether you care about that, the model continues to drop LSU. And here's what concerns me with that. It started to do that with South Carolina before South Carolina had lost anything. And then South Carolina lost. And it's done that with a couple of teams this year, kind of gotten ahead of the curve and started dropping them even though they were winning, and then they end up losing. Illinois. It was doing that with Illinois. So let's just keep that in mind. Texas Tech is number 14, and there is now a gap forming in the Big 12. There is I think we have a 4-point separation, which is a pretty big gap between Texas Tech and the next closest team in the Big 12. So that is noteworthy because that is not normal for that conference. A&M is 13. Look at Indiana. They're up 10 spots this week. They're number 12. They are up a touchdown in their overall raw power rating from week 1. I cannot stress this in strong enough terms. We never took Indiana seriously as a team that could do damage if they made the playoffs last year. We thought they deserved to be in the playoff. They were never winning a game once they got in. This is a different team. This Indiana team is fully capable of not only making the playoff, they are fully capable of winning games in the playoff. I firmly believe that. They are every bit a legit contender this year. Tennessee's at number 11. Excited to see Tennessee on the road in Starkville this weekend. That is a big matchup. That's not an easy game for them. Top 10. Oklahoma's at number 10. Of course, yes, I saw the news today. They have lost John Mateer for several weeks, starting quarterback, injured the hand against Auburn. He is going to miss, they got a bye week this week, right? Then they got the Kent State game. Then they got Texas. My guess is he misses the Texas game, but I know there's a lot of hope that maybe he's back by the time they play Texas. Anyway, forget about that for a second. Oklahoma's power rating here at number 10 is with John Mateer. So without him, which would be temporary, we would adjust that. They may not be top 25 without him. So fingers crossed he's back soon. Ole Miss is up 4 spots at number 9. The model's been notoriously anti-Ole Miss in the past, so this is noteworthy. Model's getting higher and higher on Ole Miss. Notre Dame at number 8. Again, I know they're a multi-loss team. You either understand what we're doing here or you don't. They would be favored over most teams in the country, including many undefeated teams. Josh, why even play the games? So we can determine winners. But look, you got him at number 8. It doesn't look like you care who wins. No, in this, I don't care who wins. I care who would be favored. In the commissioner's poll on Thursday, I care who wins. Miami's number 7. Does that seem low to you? Especially when Texas is sitting number 6. Miami against Texas right now. If you think I'm taking Texas over Miami on a neutral field, drugs. And yet the model is sitting here trying to sell me on the fact that everything's right in Austin again. Because Arch Manning flexed on some poor DB that's going to be bagging groceries 3 weeks from now. It's good. We just bumped Texas up. What did we bump them up 5 spots? We didn't do anything. I got nothing to do with this. Texas does not belong number 6. But here's what's in play. This thing heavily factors in talent. Heavily factors in talent. Because 9 times out of 10, that's what should be factored in when it comes to a power rating. When they're formulating spreads over at FanDuel, I promise you, they're heavily baking in talent profiles. Well, that matters unless your performance level is not matching your talent rating. And if it's not, then there's a lot of money to be made betting against that kind of team. I say all that to say, Texas, even in power ratings, should not be number 6 right now. But they are. Shame on you. Shame on the model. Not shame on me. Couldn't be me. Shame on the model. All right, top 5. Penn State's number 5. They play number 2, Oregon, this week. Bama's number 4. They play number 3, Georgia, this week. Ohio State's number 1. They play at Washington this week. There's a lot of probably question, as there was last week, about Bama. Bama number 4, how could that be? Bama got embarrassed by Florida State week 1. I know, I watched the game. What's your point? Well, the point is they shouldn't be number 4. Why not? Well, I mean, what are you trying to say, putting them number 4? I'm saying they'd be favored over everybody beneath them. That's what I'm saying on a neutral field. Well, where's the proof of that? The proof is right there on the board this week. Did you notice what that spread is against Georgia? Bama at Georgia. Georgia minus 2.5. The implication there is on a neutral field, that's a pick'em game or maybe even Alabama slightly favored. So you can debate this, but you're debating against a wall. The evidence is already there. If Bama was what you think they should be, they'd be like a 9-point dog on the road this week at Georgia. They're not. They're not. So that doesn't mean they're going to win anything. In fact, I picked Georgia to win and cover. So what I think's going to happen is completely independent, as is what you think will happen, relative to what the number would be. That's all we're trying to do here. That's it. We're trying to help the world. We're not trying to cause more chaos. That's not what we need. We're trying to bring people together with the JP poll, although I would argue Texas at number 6 is no way to bring America together. No way to bring America together. And you know what else? I don't know what in the world happened when Texas came to the SEC, but not only do they get coddled by the model, also every single legit quarterback gets buzzsawed before they face Texas. We got Lagway in a boot, so they're not going to face him in a couple of weeks in all likelihood. Mateer may be out, so they may not face him. Last year they avoided Lagway in Austin. I don't know what happened when they came to the SEC. I don't know. But yeah, the model loves some Texas, loves Texas. You can love Texas too. Go to FanDuel. Who knows? Maybe you agree with the model. I know a lot of my friends in Austin do. No, actually, some of them even tell me the model's a little high on them right now. But nevertheless, I got news for you. You ever heard of Boost Fest? Well, it's happening at FanDuel, the 25th through the 28th. So that is basically this weekend. Here's how Boost Fest works. There's just a bunch of profit boost all over the place. Ryder Cup is coming up. We got college football. We got the NFL. You just need to look around once you peruse FanDuel and look at which games have profit boost tokens on them. What that means for the unwashed is you bet money on a game, and then you just win a whole lot more than you normally would have if your bet hits. It's a beautiful thing. Profit boosts are a wonderful thing. Now, in the interest of getting you money, I want to tell you that I'm about to get you some money. So, Jesse, are we good in the description, by the way? We are good. Okay. All right. You can look in the description if you're on YouTube right now, or you can just look in the chat. There's a link there. You don't have to do anything at that link. But if you want to give us your information there and you have a FanDuel account, I'm giving 10 of you $100 in bonus bets tonight because I went to FanDuel and said, I need to give away some money. And they said, okay, well, how's 1,000? I said, it's a good start. It's a good start. I think we can do better down the road, but it's a good start. So there it is. It's in right there. I see it. It's pinned. So you can click that link. There's a link in the description. It pays to watch the show live, obviously. Just click it, enter your info, or don't. But if you do enter your info, I'm going to pick 10 of you, and we're going to give you $100 in bonus bets. We'll announce that on Thursday. I think we'll announce on Thursday. But what I'm about to announce here before I end this show is I've got 2 more best bets aboard the Ramen Noodle Express. So the games were already on, to remind you from the other night. Mississippi State plus 9.5. That's not shocking. Rice plus 14.5 is utterly shocking. We have gone from, frankly, hating on food and rejecting food to betting on food. Because a lot of people are losing to food these days. And they're playing Navy. They're 14.5-point dogs. But you know what? Rice has been a double-digit dog and pulled the outright upset already this year. So I'm not ready to order the Rice T-shirt yet. Don't send me that thing yet. But if you beat Navy, absolutely send it. Okay, we are going to bet on Hawaii for the first time in I don't know how long. Hawaii is getting 6.5. We are betting against every service academy this week. I feel so un-American. Hawaii plus 6.5 against Air Force. And Ole Miss is going to be a best bet. And we're not even getting the best of line value here. But I think Ole Miss is going to win that thing by a field goal or more. So Ole Miss minus 1.5, Hawaii plus 6.5, Rice plus 14.5, Mississippi State plus 9.5. Ramen Noodle Express is already a winner this year. Now we want to stretch the margins. And that's what we'll look to do this weekend. We'll be back Thursday. Remember, the Thursday show now starts at 7 Eastern, 6 Central. Mainly to appease Kubelik's travel schedule. Also, I'm told the NFL does something in the way of a game on Thursday night. So we'll do the show Thursday night, and it is going to be a loaded week. We haven't even gotten to all the games yet, so we'll get to more games Thursday. Subscribe and tell 5 of your friends to do the same, because truthfully, I'd like to be at 500K by Thanksgiving. Just get it out of the way before December even starts. There you go. That's our goal. For Director Bradley, Producer Jesse, I'm Josh Pate. Take care. We'll see you back here same time Thursday night, except an hour earlier. Until then, God bless.